Welcome to Football Today Team Profile and Projections. I'm Bobby Skinner here with Justin Penik, and today we are looking at the New England Patriots, a new era for the Patriots. They came in our power rankings at 30th after a 4-13 season. They were ranked 32nd in scoring last year, 28th in passing, 26th in rushing offense. Defensively, though, they were good, 15th in scoring, but that doesn't tell the story. They were 11th in passing, 4th in rushing, second in rushing EPA, and we'll talk about it all. Bill Belichick is out. Jerod Mayo era starts now. 38 years old. His first season was a linebacker coach. That's DC for the past 5 seasons after being a Patriots player for 8 years. Offensive coordinator, they bring in Alex Van Pelt, who's been the Browns OC the last 4 years. And then their defensive coordinator, DeMarcus Covington, has been with the Patriots coach since 2017. It was time for Bill to go, right? He had been a bad at GM. His handling of the offense the last 2 seasons was pitiful, whether it was making Patricia or Judge the head of it or benching Mac Jones 5 times last year before finally pulling the plug for the last 6 games. But I think people are underselling how much they're going to miss him defensively. Like, this was a team that had a defense that overcame a garbage offense and huge injuries to their best players. And, Bill Belichick's gone for the first time since the 90s. And, I think we're looking past the defensive mastermind that is Bill Belichick, and I think it's because Jerod Mayo, he's a Bill Belichick guy, but it's not the same as him, right? They've been 4th, 3rd, and 8th in the last 3 seasons in EPA per play on defense, despite not having top tier talent and an awful offense. And it is so hard to coach a team to be truly multiple and adjust the way that he did. So there's huge offensive questions on this staff. Defensively, I think people are like, it was good last year, it's going to be fine. And I think they will be fine, but I don't think they're going to be quite the advantage that Bill Belichick had them as.
Yeah, Bobby, I've been approaching these TPPs with stats and trying to understand where the roster is and the team is headed into 2024. But with the Patriots and Drake May, and especially like you said, without Bill Belichick, they have so much unknown now. And basically, the 3 questions with this team and the 3 questions that I think they need to answer in 2024. When will Drake May be ready to take the starting mantle over? And that's not even when is Drake May ready. When will maybe the Patriots roster, or will the Patriots have enough of an offensive structure that Drake May can be ready? And where if he even gets in and he struggles, can he avoid getting to a place where he won't be able to bounce back confidence-wise? And you don't want rookie year to be just so bad and so god-awful that a guy can't bounce back confidence-wise from it. And then also, like you led off this show, not even talking about Drake May, how will a defense that still has been a top 10 unit since Tom Brady left, how will they adjust to life without Bill Belichick? I feel like stats, there's a couple teams that we're going to be talking about TPP-wise, where stats and context and roster-wise, it's not really that fully important. Their 2023 reflecting on their 2024, but I feel like with the Patriots, where things can be so different, it's kind of irrelevant.
Yes, I mean, we'll start with the offense, right?
Yep.
And I'll start with this. Who starts at quarterback for you week 1?
Jacoby Brissett.
So I think so too, but I wouldn't be dead set on this because I love Drake May. I think has the ability to be truly special, but I would make Drake May force us to start him, right? I would make it there's no way we can not start this guy over Drake or over Jacoby Brissett. But if he's not fully ready, there's zero reason to rush him along. Whether it's you have about as good as a bridge quarterback as you can get in Jacoby Brissett, or you feel that this roster's just not ready to cater to a rookie quarterback who may go through some mistakes, and you don't want to shoot his ruin his confidence. And we'll see how they approach things offensively.
Yeah.
There's some decent pieces on this offense. Pop Douglas, I'm excited to talk about, but their tackle situation is really worrisome. There's huge question marks for what this offense can be unless it just has a quarterback elevating it to that next tier.
More than Drake May forcing the Patriots' hand and damn, we just got to play this guy. More because he could force them to play, but force them to because he looks really good in practice and he looks really good in preseason games. Things are just so not dumbed down, but dulled down. The competition, getting hit, the speed of the game, everything is just so different from game speed and what you're actually going to get on Sunday, where, in practice, you're just playing for the next rep. In preseason game, you're playing such vanilla defenses and you're probably playing a lot of backups. Versus NFL Sunday, it's different when you're playing for wins and losses, and every single play and every single game matters,
It's
right?
also
So,
different when you're in the room with him every day, and you can tell as a coach, like, oh, he's got it, it's ready, right? And
but that
I
doesn't
don't think
mean
Drake May is this like project that some people made him out to be, and you don't want to hold that back, right? There's some rookie QBs who need to sit, and then there's some rookie QBs like, oh, they're ready to go from day one, and then there's also rookie QBs who probably need to sit, but they get forced into being playing because of the pressure and wanting to, project head coaching, job security. And a lot of times, like those coaches knew, right? Like I think of Matt Nagy, who I'm not sitting here saying is a good coach, but he knew Justin Fields wasn't ready. But it was like, oh, play Justin Fields over Andy Dalton. And then when he was in there, he looked lost, and he continued to look lost
right.
for the rest of his career.
But I don't think Jerod Mayo has that pressure on him. The Patriots don't even have like a GM. Like Elliot Wolf is the closest thing that they have to a GM. They haven't even named one yet, which is really bothersome. So I really don't feel like
no, that's what I'm saying.
the
But
timeline.
But if they feel Drake May is like, oh shit, like he's got this shit down, like he can run what we want to run
Right.
and run to the best of his ability, then you put him in. Like it's a let Drake May force us, but there's no reason to rush it though.
Right. And I'm almost not doing it because you've seen the trend of guys that have sat. Pat Mahomes sat. Jordan Love has sat. Some of these guys have sat for, a whole stretch. And Jordan Love is a drastic example, but these guys that sometimes do sit and don't get thrown into the fire, even though Drake May could be ready, I don't think the roster's ready, number one. And Jacoby Brissett could come in there and prove maybe differently that the roster is ready and ready to handle it and handle Drake May and not have him just totally struggle. But I just think it's for the betterment of his career that he does not play right away. And it's not even like it's not an anti-Drake May thing. I just think it's for the betterment of his entire career, his 15-year career, betterment that he just does not play right away.
I agree, but I do think there's a scenario where it's like, okay, he can elevate this offense, right? Where it's not just, oh, it's a good, he's the best that we have, but where it's like, oh no, he can elevate us above, where the top 10 quarterbacks elevate guys, right? You don't have to compare him to CJ Stroud as like because every rookie can't be CJ Stroud, but let's talk about this offense, right? They bring in Alex Van Pelt. To me, there's going to be a ton of play action with this offense, right? Like, Alex Van Pelt comes from the Browns. Joe Flacco was first in play action rate last year. Deshaun Watson was 11th. And then I think it's good play action too. There's teams that run a lot of play action that we'll talk about that they're just like, they're not good at it. Those guys were both first and second in yards per attempt differential, meaning like they had more yards per attempt on play action than not. Like, and only the Dolphins, Lions, and Cowboys had more play action attempts for the entire season. And Van Pelt has a familiarity percent, right? Had him in 2022 before Watson got off the suspension. So, the offensive line is the bit like a lot's been made about the Patriots wide receivers, and partially right, but I actually think they have an okay group. And like, let me ask you this: who's the Patriots' best wide receiver to you?
I honestly, Kendrick Bourne screams at me most talented, right?
Kendrick Bourne makes sense, right? He had the most yards per game, but he tore his ACL last year. There is a sleeper. And if you're doing fantasy football drafts and you're looking for a sleeper pick, and maybe it's not in fantasy football world, I don't know. Everyone's a sleeper for them. Demario Douglas, Pop Douglas. This is a guy screaming, who is this? Like, he led them in receiving last year as a 6th-round rookie, 561 yards on 49 catches. He was 4th in YAC per reception, 4th in missed tackle rate. Justin, he's a legit route runner, and he can separate quickly, right? He spent 2/3 of his time in the slot. I think he might play a little more on the outside this year, but like the QBs missed him a ton. Go watch him as a route runner. A to Z Sports did a good video on him. Like, he uses cell, he has burst. I think Pop Douglas is on the verge of a break. I think he's going to get 800 yards this year, and that's me that's me being conservative with it, right? He had 560 last year with awful quarterback, and they missed him, right? he separated on all 3 levels, and they just missed him. But when he did get, his opportunities, he made the most of every single one of them. And I think this guy's on, like, I think this guy's a breakout candidate for the entire NFL.
I love it. I love it. Even has some solid yak numbers as well. You just brought him to my attention.
He's fourth.
I don't even have a rebuttal.
He's fourth in yak. He was fourth in yak per reception last year. Fourth in missed tackle rate. Like, he's good. And then here's the thing: the rest of the wide receiver room, I don't think is awful either. Right? You have Kendrick Bourne coming off the injury. Juju had a really bad year, but Juju's someone who can start in the NFL. They drafted Jalen Polk, Javon Baker, who was
your guy.
He was my guy where I was like, this is the guy I'm the most high on compared to consensus. Osborne's gotten some, playing time in his career. Thornton, I don't have anymore. And then you even have Hunter Henry, who, like, again, a guy that was held back by quarterback play. He was their entire red zone offense last year. Like, he had 6 of their receiving touchdowns, and he was good. It was just the quarterback play was and play design was awful last year. And I think Alex Van Pelt will be an upgrade. I don't think he's going to be this huge, great offensive play caller, but I do think he'll be an upgrade. And I think they're in a better situation outside of the offensive line to compete on offense, and maybe be like the 20th ranked offense compared to the 32nd that they were last year.
Yeah, dude, they've just been the face of offensive, incompetency the last couple years, right? Incompetence. That's not a word. Incompetency. Justin, you're right. They've been the face of it over the last 2 years. Now the Jets have worse numbers, but at least there's flashes at times, and then there's superstars on that offense, and then obviously they have Aaron Rodgers. The route combinations, the execution, the lack of talent, the dysfunction, it's been painful. It's been painful to watch this offense. 55% of targets last year went to wide receivers. That's going to change. They were 31st in explosive pass plays last year. We're 34. 34. There's 17 games. Highest usage of 12 personnel on early downs last year. That may, I can imagine you have Alex Van Pelt, again, a Cleveland guy. They like to run out of these running formations. That may not change. But the thing that is different is we're not going to look at this wide receiver crew and this wide receiver crop and be like, it's still not great, but we're not going to look at it as that's the sole reason why the Patriots are bad. The last couple of years, it's been they have no wide receivers.
And there's at least some awful quarterback play too. And
there's at least some excitement coaching, there.
Right? Like, it's Bill Belichick's my football hero, and I said it was time to go because of how bad he mismanaged that offense last year.
Yeah, it just seems lost without Josh McDaniels.
Right? Like, it felt like the Joe Judge, Matt Patricia thing was just overconfidence. Overconfident in himself. But this is going to be an offense that's going to try and run the ball. They're going to run play action, and they're going to try and create chunk plays out of that. And I'm excited. I'm really excited for Pop Douglas. Like, he's my breakout guy this year. I had like a handful of them. He is absolutely one of them. It's just the offensive tackles really worried me. Right? Like,
even Mike Nwanu.
But he's playing guard for them. He's going to play right guard for them. You have David Andrews as center. They've kind of given up a Cole Strange. Like, City So is meant to be the left guard.
Really? So they're going to... Oh, wow.
Yeah, I double-checked on this. I talked with Taylor Kyles, who's a Patriots beat writer. I was like, Michael Nwenu was... And again, they could change. They've done that before with Michael Nwenu, where they panic and put him back out the tackle. But he is the best at his guard.
Cole Strange is going to miss at least the start of the year with a knee injury. Like, that's known.
Yeah.
So I thought that coming back, you would have Cole Strange going into year 3, who I think Cole Strange he made some improvements last year. I think there's good stuff. I think he's a better run blocker than he is pass blocker. City So is, another guy heading into year 2, but it's the left tackle.
They like So.
They like So. So, but you have a
Chukwuma Okorafor at left tackle, who's been a right tackle and not been good for the Steelers.
He has 2 snaps at left tackle in his career.
Yeah, and then Caden Wallace at right tackle, who they drafted from Penn State in the 3rd round, which feels like an overdraft. Like, their plan is to have Onwenu at right guard, but they've done it before, and I can see them doing it again, being like, shit, put in Onwenu at right tackle.
Also, they paid him all that money, and you're going to have him at
But
guard?
he's a really good, like he's a really good guard, right? And we
Okay.
saw the money that guards got this year in the NFL, like, and when it would have gotten that on the open market. So it's not like them just paying their own guy. Um, it's just that tackle situation. I mean,
Yeah, that's not good.
that's the thing that's stopping me from being like, even if like stopping me from wanting Drake May to play right away, because that tackle situation is awful, 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 awful. And you're going to be playing against the Jets. You're going to be playing against some, some solid teams. That's disaster land with those tackles.
Yeah, I didn't know that about the offensive line configuration. That makes me feel worse about them.
Yeah, like that leaves a pit in your stomach if you're Drake May's parents, like looking at what they're playing as an offensive tackle, letting Trent Brown go, and then having a Okorafor and Caden Wallace as your slate of starters.
Now, you want to talk about a team? We talked about this with the Denver Broncos on last TPP about how are they going to be a run heavy team? Like, I actually think Van Pelt coming from Cleveland, and then even the configuration of this O line last year. Now it's going to change.
All of their O linemen are better run blockers and pass blockers too.
I think they can move, and I think they combo well. I think they can move to the secondary level. Now their numbers efficiency wise were horrible, but I actually think that they could move a little bit as run blockers. So you're losing Ezekiel Elliott, Antonio Gibson. Hopefully Ramondre Stevenson is a little bit more healthy this year and he stays like that. I actually think he's a really good running back and really efficient.
Yeah, Stevenson's been really good for them, and they just paid him too. And maybe they can. Mr. Antonio Gibson worries me because of the fumbles. Like it's a legit worry for him, but he's a more dynamic player than what Ezekiel Elliott was for. Even though Ezekiel Elliott had a ton of, I think was second on their team in catches or first.
He had more receptions than Stevenson, which was shocking.
Yeah. So I think they're going to try and run the ball, and that Alex Van Pelt's going to run play action, and I'm really excited to see Pop Douglas. It's just those tackles that really, really panic me on the offensive side. Defensively, they're going to be multiple, but they live out of single high coverages. They blitz a good amount. They blitz at the fourth. Like here's the three defensive play callers who blitz more than them: Brian Flores, Wink Martindale, and Todd Bowles. Those are the only three guys that blitz more than the Patriots last year. But they are multiple and can't change. They just played amazing team ball, and every single one knew their roles, right? And this is a team that lost Matthew Judon, lost Christian Gonzalez, who are arguably their two best players on defense. Now, listen, I don't think this defense is going to sink without Bill Belichick, but I don't know if it's going to have that edge schematically that it does. But they're set up to be a good defensive unit, right? You have Christian Barmore, who's like a top 10 to 15 defensive tackle in the NFL, seventh in run stops, second in run stop rate for defensive tackle. Anthony Jennings is a great run defending edge. He was second in run stops. And
this is a team full of good run defenders, like every single one from top to bottom. Yeah. Like even Keon White, who we didn't love. Yeah. Like Keon White, we didn't love, but damn, he's a good run defender and he's strong. You mentioned Barmore, Matt Judon. You get him back for a whole year. So like the upside of this pass rush isn't great getting to the quarterback, but they should be able to stop the damn run if they scheme correctly, because they certainly have the players to do it. I think even Dietrich Wise, who I like to, that's a name that I just liked as the years have gone on. I think he's even not bad at stopping the run either. But where the strength of this defense is, at least in my opinion, from a names perspective, is the secondary. I love this secondary.
Yeah, well, and up front, like you said, they're not going to get after the pass, and I don't think they're going to be one of the best pass rushing teams in the NFL. But like Matthew Judon was 4th and 7th in sacks his last 2 years healthy, tore his bicep in week 4. He was on pace for 17 sacks in 20. Like he was just as good, and I think Josh Uche, can be, I don't want to give away a segment later, but like if he can get back to, some of the production that he had. So they're deep and they've got a lot of guys up front who can defend the run. And again, they're DBs, right? They have, Jabril Peppers and Khalil Duggar, who are two of the best run defending DBs in the NFL. Christian Gonzalez, can do it. Like they can truly play the run, and even their line, like Jelani Tavai just got a $21 million deal for 3 years. Like he's been a stud for them, right? And it's smart for them to get a deal done now rather than later. He just doesn't have the gaudy stats, but he's always in the right way. You have Jawan Bentley, who led them in tackles. They are a team that's going to stop the fucking run, and they're just going to be not just good at it, like with talent on talent, but like they're going to be structured well. Their guys are going to, hopefully be in the right place. Um, and again, like it's a team that just all 11 guys know how to stop the run.
Yeah, yeah, I'm with you, man. Like I said, I love that secondary. Kyle Duggar, Jabril Peppers, underrated safety combo. Jonathan Jones is a really underrated corner as well, and Christian Gonzalez getting a full year of him being healthy.
Yeah, that's a
Hopefully
good
gonna be a game
cornerback
changer.
duo. Christian
Yeah,
Gonzalez and Jonathan Jones. That's one of the better cornerback duos in the NFL. And then you mentioned
yeah,
Duggar and Peppers is a very underrated. Like Jabril Peppers is this great, like jack of all trades, master of none. But he brings the heat, and so does Kyle
yeah.
Duggar. Right, like Kyle Duggar played a little more deep last year than you probably would like for him because of other injuries. But they're just both playmakers who can play the run really well, and you can move them. You can move both of them around a ton. You don't want Peppers playing deep too often. Um, but like that this is a defense who should be good. Again,
Yeah.
I what I worry about is the week to week, figuring out the other team's, strength and taking that away, which is like a Patriots thing, is, forcing the lesser players to make plays. That's what I worry about, losing Bill Belichick. But just player wise and overall structure, they're going to be a pretty damn good defense.
Yeah, I agree. They should. Should.
Let's go over new additions versus lost. Right, new additions: Jacoby Brissett, Antonio Gibson, KJ Osborne, Chukwuma Okorafor, Armand Watts, and Marco Wilson. They lost Mac Jones, Zeke, Devontae Parker, Trent Brown, Mike Gesicki, Pharaoh Brown, Lawrence Guy, Miles Bryant, J.C. Jackson, and Jalen Mills. The thing that sticks out to me, good, is bringing in Jacoby Brissett. That was a must for them. That was a must
Yes.
for them to bring in him. Losing Trent Brown, I know it ended negatively, and then replacing him with Okorafor, like we talked about before, that is my biggest, like, can really puncture this team deal right there.
Yeah. Or Core is my X factor, or whoever the left tackle is.
Okay, so
That's what I put
Okorafor
down.
is your X factor. Mine is Josh Uche, right?
Yeah.
Signed back with a 1 year, $3 million deal. Can he get back to his 2022 self where he had 12 sacks and 44 pressures? Like, was 16th in NFL in total for sacks, hits, and pressures. So, if again you can have all those run defenders, and then you have Judon on one side and Uche, being that guy who makes the most every pass rush rep, he's my X factor. With the draft class, you have Drake May, Jalen Polk in the second, Caden Wallace in the third, Layden Robinson in the fourth. Who I like Layden, I didn't see him as a fourth rounder. Javon Baker in the fourth, I love that one. Marcellus Dial in the 6th-round DB, Joe Milton, the quarterback at Tennessee, in the 6th, and then 7th, Jaheim Bell, the tight end, the undersized tight end out of FSU, who's played running back, and then Joe Milton might play tight. I don't know what the deal is with Joe Milton.
It's strange.
Do you? What's the path to Drake May playing if Jacoby Brissett starts week 1?
The offensive line isn't a catastrophe.
But I'm saying, like, if the offensive line isn't a catastrophe, I think Jacoby Brissett's going to play fairly well.
Okay, but I looked at the.
Do you think there's a chance that Drake May sits the entire year?
No, I think even if because the Patriots aren't going to be good. Like they're just not.
But if they're a team that
good.
believes this guy needs to sit, give him the year, and Jacoby Brissett is playing halfway decent, which we've seen Jacoby Brissett do most recently with Alex Van Pelt as his offensive coordinator, I could see them being strong enough in their ways to be like, hey, we're not giving in to the pressure to play this kid.
Which I think if they have that belief right now, I commend them for that. And I think they should stick to it. But I don't think that they will. I think he will be playing sooner than this, but best case scenario is he plays like 5, 6 games, 7 games. I think he should sit for that long.
Okay.
I think he should sit for that long.
I want to ask you.
But I mean, the first game that you feel confident in winning if you're the New England Patriots is possibly week 9 against the Titans. They have a really, really brutal schedule. And the next closest before that is week 2 versus Seattle. I don't know, man.
Let me ask you this. We talked about the wide receiver room. They drafted Jalen Polk in the 2nd round, Javon Baker in the 4th round. They have Pop Douglas. They have Kendrick Bourne. They have Juju Smith-Schuster. They brought in KJ Osborne. Who's your starting 3?
My starting 3. Kendrick Bourne if healthy, right?
Yeah. So Kendrick Bourne and Pop Douglas are my 1 and 2.
Demario Douglas, And then, I mean, I know both of us,
So I love Javon Baker, but they drafted Jalen Polk 2 rounds earlier.
right?
So I think Polk might get the start from day one.
But I mean, in terms of who we like better, we like Javon Baker better. But I think they both are very different players. Where
I think they
Jalen
complement each
Polk,
other pretty well too.
Jalen Polk in college was this contested catch. Washington. We're going to run a track meet offense, but you got to go up and you got to go get the
He's
ball, and
Robert
that's what makes
Woods.
them. That's what makes them different from an offense. Let's say Tennessee. That's a track meet, except everybody's wide open because their splits are so wide. So Jalen Polk, I don't think he's going to live and die by being a contested catch guy in the NFL. But I kind of, knowing that we're Giants fans, Bobby, I kind of want Jalen Polk to turn into Sterling Shepard, where he's just really smart, finding holes in zones. Like, you got to know your opponent, you got to know your corner that you're going up against, like the back of your hand, and you got to be a quarterback's best friend in the intermediate level and close to the sticks and knowing how to get open. And then, hey, if you want to go down there and maybe make a contested catch and you have the opportunity on a 1v1 ball because you did that really well at Washington, then maybe we can do that and we can have that as part of our game too. But Javon Baker just seems like he's just more fun.
Yeah, he's the guy who you could see being a dominant X, getting to being like, out of this guy to the fall to the 4th round X receiver. Someone comped Jalen Polk to Robert Woods before the draft, and it never left my mind. Like, he is Robert Woods. So over under 4.5 wins for this team, Justin.
I have under. Like I said, they have a really difficult schedule. Talked about, the first game that you really feel confident winning, or having a chance at winning is week 9 against the Titans. I'm going under, and they have a really, really tough schedule.
I'm going over.
Oh,
I think this is my first over team that we recorded. I'm going over on them. I don't feel great about this team, but I just think they're a team that's going to be able to win at least 5 games.
that's fair.
All right, that is your New England Patriots, and that was football today.